Jon Jones gotta take some notes. He's gotten single eye pokes, but he's never finished an opponent with a double eye poke. Hit Bruno Silva with the 1-2. Chris Weidman's raising the bar, and not the bar that Jon Jones is currently at. This has to go down as probably the weirdest fight night in UFC history. We got 2 winners because of eye pokes. Winners, not no contest. 2 guys won after eye poking their opponent, Chris Weidman and Ruzaboyev, and neither fighter even got a point deducted. Chris Weidman's was even worse than Ruzaboyev, right? Chris Weidman poked Bruno Silva 4 times in the eye and never got a point deducted. In my opinion, 1 poke should be a point deduction, or at least you get 1 warning, right? How do you get 4 eye pokes on somebody and not get DQ'd for it? The ref is even allowed to look at the screen to see the 2 eye pokes in the finishing sequence, and he still did not call it a DQ. We know when Jon Jones comes back who he's going to be requesting for his referee. Referee Gary Copeland just lets this stuff go, and he had multiple bad calls throughout this entire fight night. Multiple fights. And for this one with Weidman specifically, he kept giving Weidman strong warnings even after, I think it was a 2nd or 3rd eye poke, and Weidman kept opening up his palm, extending his fingers. The ref was telling him, close your fingers. Later, Bruno Silva comes in throwing his combination, and Weidman double eye pokes him. He pokes him in both eyes. As Silva came in with his entry shot, Weidman being the longer fighter that he is, he's going to try to move away, and usually longer guys extend their lead arm in front of his opponent to hold space between them two. So Weidman extends his arms and his fingers out, poking Bruno Silva in the right eye first. You can see how the finger's inside the eye socket. Then he maneuvers his fingers to the other eye, poking that one as well. So Weidman really hit Bruno Silva with the poke-poke left hook combo and won the fight because of that. On the way down, Bruno Silva was holding his face because of the damage to his eyes. That alone, where he's falling and has his hands to his eyes, tells you already what he's feeling in that moment. It's not as much the left hook as it was the eye pokes. And remember the other thing about Chris Weidman when he fought Gegard Mousasi back in the day. He was trying to play the game, right? He was trying to play the game when Gegard Mousasi was kneeing him to the head and they were all fair shots. And he tried to play it up too. Weidman is really good at using the rules to his own benefit. Before he didn't get away with it, but this time he did. Originally, they were giving Chris Weidman a TKO win, but the crazy thing about this was referee Copeland looked at the replay and he overturned it into a decision win. Still a win for Weidman. Not a DQ, not a no contest because of 4 or 5 eye pokes that happened in the fight. No, let's still give him a win because he won the first 2 rounds. That's not fair. Imagine being Bruno Silva. I mean, he also eye poked Chris Weidman, by the way, but not as much as Weidman poked him. But imagine being Bruno Silva, right? You're getting poked in the eye all fight. You lose because of it. They take away a no contest or even a DQ win for yourself that was reasonable. And all you see is Chris Weidman celebrating. He's saying how anybody can chase their dreams even though he just eye poked you for a win. And then blurring out in the speakers is born in the USA. Silva's probably having his tinfoil hat on right now about ever fighting the United States ever again. But it wasn't that. It was just an incompetent referee that made many mistakes throughout the entire fight card, and Chris Weidman cheated. I love Weidman. I'm happy he's back, and he looked really good out there after suffering that leg break years ago. But that's just not right. What are the eye poke rules for then? Why are they even there? Just allow everybody eye poke. He got away with 4 or 5 eye pokes in a fight. That's not right. In my opinion, it should have at least been a no contest. If not no contest, it should be a DQ win for Bruno Silva. The man got poked in the eye 4 to 5 times, and Weidman got away with it. Crazy. And then in the other fight with Ruzaboyev and Dumas, this is the fight before Weidman's. So a back-to-back eye-poking win here. Ruzaboyev is really long. He's 6'5". As a middleweight, that's enormous. And he's moving back away from Dumas with his left hand extended, and he brings it down and up. When he brought it down, as Dumas is also throwing a combination, just like Bruno Silva was, he gets poked in his right eye, starts protesting to the ref, and then gets hit by a menacing uppercut as the ref just allowed it to happen. And they don't even bother to look at the replay as to why this guy was protesting. And here's the thing. If they did look at the replay and still didn't overturn that, that is such a foul move from the referee. And that was such a dirty move from Ruzaboyev. He saw that he poked him, the guy has a problem with his eye, and he still went for the finish. I get the whole thing about defend yourself at all times. You know, that was Dumas's mistake of looking at the ref and stuff, but the ref should have came in, right? I don't fault him really for looking at the referee. The ref should have done his job. But this speaks to Ruzaboyev's character as well. Now, I personally thought that Ruzaboyev was going to win the fight. He was a massive favorite going into it, but the eye poke happened. It was a major factor into that fight. It was only the first round. The fight barely played out. And Dumas protested immediately after the eye poke. He wasn't looking for a way out. He has so much more time to work and try to get this win. He also got poked in the eye similar to how Bruno Silva did. It wasn't two though. Bruno Silva got poked in both eyes in one sequence. But both of these fights should have been at least a no contest. The Weidman fight, I could even see a DQ for how many times he poked Silva in the eye. But with the Ruzaboya fight, because there weren't that many fouls, I can see a no contest there. Eye poke should not be allowed to just happen like that. It's one of the most impacting fouls that can change a fight. And these two back to back got away with it. Crazy. And do you know where it's really messed up? In the official rules, it states that it's all up to the referee, right? It's a very subjective rule as to whether they take a point or not, right? It's all up to the referee. If he never wants to take a point, he doesn't have to, which is crazy. They should have some kind of objective rule about when they take a point away. How many times does an eye poke happen? If the guy's clearly damaged by it, how many times should it happen? So I think if someone gets poked in the eye one time, they get a foul. If it's 2 times, is a point deduction. 3 times is a DQ. That's what I think. Or if you want to go super strict with the eye pokes, 1 time is a point deduction, 2 times is 2 point deductions, 3 times a DQ. But here's what the rules state about the referee taking points or not. Quote, only a referee can assess a foul. If the referee does not call the foul, judges shall not make the assessment on their own and cannot factor such scoring calculations. Foul procedures. If a foul is committed, the referee shall, number 1, call time, number 2, check the fouled mixed martial artist condition and safety, and number 3, assess the foul to the offending contestant, deduct points, and notify each corner seconds, judges, and the official scorekeeper. Unquote. It doesn't say anywhere in the rules when a referee has to take a point away. And I think that's the biggest mistake about this, because there should be an objective rule as to when they do it. And I think it's pretty simple of when to do that. You know, if Chris Weidman pokes him 1 time, that should be a hard warning. If he pokes him for the 2nd time, he gets a point deducted. He pokes him the 3rd time, it's a DQ. That's what I think it should be. 4 to 5 times with no point deduction is crazy, bro. It's so counterproductive in this sport, because a ref warning the fighter that he poked the other guy in the eye, it's actually not warning him of a point deduction anymore. What the ref is actually doing there is telling the fighter they got away with it. That's what that means. Because in this sport, you can get multiple warnings with no point deductions. We could look at Usman and Leon's fights together. We could look at Conor versus Habib, Stipe versus DC. Because of how the rules are written and how the referees have been enforcing these rules, warnings are actually a good thing for fighters that cheat. But if you have a stable rule set that tells the fighters and the referees what's the bare minimum of fouls, the bare minimum, warnings will be a lot more impactful. We'll see more point deductions and DQs and all that stuff. And considering the Weidman and Silva fight, I think they should also write something in there about this whole winning by a decision after fouling your opponent. Because in that case, for an example, if a fighter wants to play that game, let's say the fighter wins 2 rounds. Fighters can just win 2 rounds and foul their opponent, winning the fight by a decision. They don't have to go through the 3rd round. Now let's end this early. I'm gonna kick him in the groin. Okay, I get fouled, right? Sure. But I won the first 2 rounds, so I win by a decision. If Weidman can win that way through multiple eye pokes, then what's stopping a fighter from going this direction and winning fights? A fighter could just foul the guy in the 3rd round after winning 2 of them and then just win the fight early. Warnings are actually a good thing to hear from fighters when they do something foul in a fight, because they know then they got away with it. If there was an objective rule about the first eye poke being a warning, then second one being a point deduction, that's different, because they know that was my first foul. If I do a second one, I'm getting a point deducted. And I could see actually from there why you would have to implement the severity of an eye poke or any other foul and take a point deduction right away, or even a DQ from there. I can see that as well. Like if a fighter gets knocked out by getting hit in the back of the head blatantly, that could be a DQ, right? Just 1 time. Or a low blow that ends the fight. That could also be a DQ. So I think severity should be an impact, but the bare minimum should be first foul warning, second foul point deduction. That's what I think. And I think that would fix a lot of this eye-poking extravaganza that's going on in MMA right now. There's so many fighters benefiting from eye pokes.